Any idea about it?
So the previous act which was enacted in which came to power in 1986,
Yeah.
that doesn't consist of many provisions which like the new Consumer Protection Act has. Like there are many things like technology wise and all. Like there are new things which have been introduced, but that was not there in the older version of the Consumer Protection. That's why it was a need to bring a new Consumer Protection Act.
Okay. Okay. So I think it's moreover clear to you guys. So let's start. So basically, what happens if you talk about a consumer as such? Okay. So what's a need of a Consumer Protection Act is that because now in the era of a free competition, okay, when you have so much competition and then there are a lot of products which are in the market and you're not sure that which products needs to be purchased and what's the point of having those goods and what type of quality or services they are providing. So for that, and if there is anything wrong which has happened for the same, so then where you will approach, right? So then what happened for that, this Consumer Protection Act came into a picture, okay, which treated a consumer as a king, and therefore to protect the rights of a consumer, this act has acted like a protector or a shield, and it was used to protect the king, right? So now, basically, what is a consumer, right? So a person, suppose who is buying a commodity or service, okay, they are generally known as consumer. Okay, so if you want to satisfy a person or if you want to prove that who are those consumers, so for that there are two things which needs to be considered, or two conditions which needs to be fulfilled by someone for his claim. First is that there should be a service which has to be rendered, okay, to him, and there should be a paid or a promise to pay for the same service or the goods whatever you do it. And then the second thing is that if suppose you buy a goods or a capital or anything, so suppose that service is provided to you, so whether that service is good or it's bad, or if there is any fault in that service, so where you will approach. So those people who's they render any service from some authority, suppose in a case of insurance policies, when you take an insurance policy, so insurance company is giving you a service, so those types of thing. Second of all, if you purchase a watch or suppose a fan or a chair from some place, and if that service you are paid something, right? So for that also you will be called as consumer. And now about the promise, suppose you pay a amount to a builder to hand over a 2 BHK to you in Gurgaon, for example. So in that, when such type of promises are made, to fulfill those promises, you and if that promise is not fulfilled by the person, so you will come under the category of consumer in that case. Okay. So now, what are the this consumer of goods and services, right? So this is a basic the meaning about two things about the consumer of goods, a person who buy a goods for consideration or who obtains it for resale, or for the person who buys it for the commercial purpose will not fall under the category of consumer. Now, what is this commercial purpose as such, right? Suppose if I buy one swing machine, okay, at my house, and I use it for my livelihood or for my earning, then it will not be fall under the definition of the meaning of commercial use. But suppose if I buy three or four such type of swing machines and hire people and start doing a business from it or start earning it not only for my livelihood but for the others also, then it will not fall under the definition of a consumer, then it will be commercial in nature. Now, consumer of service, I have already explained you guys about this thing. That services which are we are hired or availed, and there must be a consideration which needs to be paid, or it should be there will be a promise to pay such consideration. Okay, that is basically a consumer of services. Now, what is this consumer protection? Okay, So basically, as I already told you, the king's rights needs to be protected. So when you protect king's rights, so then for that you have this consumer protection concept which came into a picture, and what it provides a safeguard or a protection or a shield to the consumer, right? And it protects their rights and their interests from getting violated. And if any such type of malpractices or mismanagement or fraud in the services has taken place, so the consumer can always approach the consumer forums. Now, first I'll talk to you about the previous act, 1986 act, which came into a picture. Then I'll come to the recent developments about it. So this act came into a picture on 15 4 1987. This act was basically limited to the products, to the services. Okay, but there are few changes which has came into a picture in 2019. I'll discuss this thing with you guys later on. So now because this 1986 act is still in picture. It's not that the 2019 act came into a force, and but it's not that way, but only the few amendments or the few clauses of that particular 2019 act came into picture. As you guys must have seen that notification which has been published is in a lot of pages, and even in our website form page on the LinkedIn and Facebook and all. So that also talks about those only the specific sections which are introduced now in the present time, and only those sections will function for time being. Maybe the government will bring some other changes in the future or something like that, then we'll see into that. But till now only those particular sections will follow. So as I said, this 1986 act was only implied to the goods and services and unfair trade practices, okay, which were unless especially exempted by the central government. Exempted by the central government as in those services which are the central government has exempted. That if these services are exempted, so you cannot claim anything against it. Only those services, otherwise all the other services provided by any person or any body will fall under this definition, under this act. Now it covers all the sector, as I said, private, public, and your cooperative. And it under this act there was some council which was established, that was known as consumer protection councils. Okay, these councils were established at all the three levels, first was your central, state, and the district levels. And these councils were used to promote and protect the rights of the consumer. Okay, they were also dealing in solving the disputes actually, more efficiently and in less time, which you generally waste, I can say that, or which you generally utilize in court proceedings. Now same objectives: to protect the consumer from abuse, to provide a venue for grievance, and to ensure a better quality of living by improving the quality of consumer products and services. Now there are certain scopes of these Consumer Protection Act 1986. What are those? It is used basically for all kinds of class, grade, dimension, and weights of material. It also covers the sampling, testing, and codes used to check the quality of the product. It also or it has scopes in dealing with the matter which relates to the content, design, construction, finishing, packaging of consumer products. Okay, it also covers basically the precaution which you are taken in storing, transporting, and packaging. Second of all, this act also, there's one more thing which is very much required in this. Suppose if there is any oil which you purchase from a person, and that oil is defective as per your understanding, or you say that this oil has more number of water or any chemical you want to quote in that. So what will happen? How the court will understand that there's any chemical or something? So what this Consumer Protection Act gives a power to these courts is like you can send these samples for the testing. Okay, they can always check these products. They will send it to the laboratories or whatever it is, the government authorized laboratories or whatever the court will suggest, to those laboratories, and they will test those products, and whatever the report will be, that on the basis of those reports they will decide the matters. So now, what is the need of this Consumer Protection Act? We have other courts, we have district courts, we have writ petitions, we have other things. We can also file a PILs if there's any large number of public interest is involved in that. So, what is the point of having a Consumer Protection Act actually, or a separate body for this thing? So, there was a need for this thing. So, why this was required is basically one for the social responsibility. Okay, social responsibility is that basically give a social responsibility to the business class. Okay, that it's their responsibility to serve or provide the best product to the consumer, and if they fail to do so, so they can be punished, right? Now, the other increasing awareness of this. So this act also becomes, it helps in increasing, as I told you about the council and all that. These things help in increasing the awareness about the consumer rights and all that things, right? As you know, that this legal service authorities, they organize various all these webinars now in the electronic media because of the COVID-19. They started organizing a lot of webinars on these rights of the consumer and all that things in the recent time. So why they started doing all these things? So that the awareness should be there among the people, right? About what are their rights and what things fall under the malpractice on the side of a businessman, and what things the consumer should know, right? Then also about the consumer satisfaction. That now, as I said about the king, so now what happens? The consumers are satisfied. They have a body which helps them in resolving the dispute between the two bodies, or anything fraud which has taken place by the businessman or something. So they can always, get satisfaction from the courts. Survival and growth of business, same way. If you help, or if you consider the consumer's interest at large, so automatically your business will grow. If you provide a good quality of material, your business will grow, right? So what happened? These business people and all that, those who were selling the products and all, they became more aware, they became more cautious, right? They have developed basically a principle of trust between the consumer and them, so that they can always flourish. Their business will survive. There will be a growth in their business and all that, and that automatically brings into the trust level also between the consumer purchaser and the seller, right? Now, what are the rights of a consumer, which we all should know? And I am sure most of you may not be heard about these things. So, you have a right to safety. I'll explain you guys what all these things are there. So then, you have a right to information. You have a right to choice. You have right to be heard. You have right to seek redressal. You have right to consumer education. You have right to basic needs, and you have right to a healthy environment. So now, first thing is that what is right to safety, right? So I guess you guys must have heard about this concept earlier also. This basically what happens. Suppose there's any product which is hazardous in nature, or which is harmful for someone's life. Okay, so what happened? If the person who is doing such type of activities, if that person has failed to do so, or if he has failed to protect or save the people around him, and if something has happened, so in that also you can approach, right? And it's your right to know that what all things are safe, what all things are harmful. For example, suppose you are selling a product which is harmful for the kids below age of 13 years, and you don't put a safety marks or something on that product, and because of that, what happened? The kids, they get in touch, the parents are not aware if that product is hazardous to the life of their children or not, and they get in touch with that, and something happens to those children, then that you should be aware about your rights, about the safety thing. Then you have right to information. All like this, suppose if you have these products which are getting published, or these advertisements which are there on the TV channels and all that thing, talking about the things and all that. So if suppose if there is anything about that product, earlier what used to happen, this 1986 act was never used to talk about the advertisement, misleading advertisement and all that, but recently this concept has changed. I'll explain you what it is now. So this right to information thing was not as such that much available. But then there was one thing which was available between us was the labeling. So what is this labeling thing? Suppose when we buy any product or something, we find a label over there, right? Which talks about different types of, maybe it will talk about the ingredient, maybe it will talk about if it's veg, non-veg, or egg is mixed in that. Maybe it will talk about the other things about the product which we should know about the dose and all that thing. So those things should also be always mentioned on that thing. Then obviously you have a right to choice. You can choose whatever the product you want to choose. It's completely your choice. Then you also have right of representation, which you can make it by approaching these companies, or you can do it by yourself also by approaching the court, that you will file your representation about the same in the courts and all that thing, that this right has been, violated, and this person has provided this deficiency in service, or this bad product, or smoothie product, or anything whatever you call that. So those things are also covered under this. Then same right to seek redressal. You can also ask for the loss which you have suffered, right? Suppose, as I said about the unsatisfactory things and all that, when you approach, suppose there's a loss which has been suffered by you, or any mental agony, or any physical damage has caused to you due to that product, so you can always seek those redressals also. Then right to consumer education. I already talked about the consumer councils which provide these consumer educations, and even we also provide a lot of programs on the consumer education and all that in various intervals. Then right to basic needs. That what are your basic needs? I guess this is all we have already studied in the constitution and all that and the laws. Then right to healthy environment. This right to healthy environment basically is a fundamental right which you have. It's given under the constitution. But then if you talk about the Consumer Protection Act, so this Consumer Protection Act also talks about the right to healthy environment. I think I was having a discussion with one of you recently about this same issue. So what is this right to healthy environment? Is basically you have a right to get a proper environment which is basically not dangerous, or which is not full of any the threats or any harmful things which can harm you, or your life or your dignity or anything. So those rights are also protected under this act. Now, as you have a right, so you have some responsibilities also, right? So now the first thing, consumer must exercise his rights. It's your responsibility. If something is going wrong, or if there is anything which is wrong against it, so you should use your rights against the same. Now, what the second thing is about the cautious consumer. This cautious consumer is basically a person who is about a bit alert or cautious about whatever the thing they are purchasing. Suppose if I buy a phone tomorrow and I know that the product or the phone is not that good, so what we will do, we should always be cautious about it. We should read the reviews, we should check the product's features, we should check how is the sale of that product, how it was used in the future time and all that things. Now, consumer must be quality conscious also, as you are aware that only the conscious consumer does not cover only the the product things or the utility or the price and all the things, but it also covers the quality of product also. Suppose we have two products in the market, so how you will check the quality of that product, right? It's very difficult nowadays to check it. So how you do it? You look at the marks on that, right? You have a quality marks which are present on those products, right? You have a ISI mark, you have agro mark, you have all these bull marks etc. on the products. So on the basis of those marks you buy those products. Why these marks are important and what's the use of these marks? Basically these marks are only given to a person after a particular examination or testing has been done. Then only these marks will be given to someone. So that's why you can only check the quality by these marks on that. Okay. Now this thing is very important in recent time, is about the cash memo. So why this cash memo is important, if you talk about, and if I'll talk about being a lawyer, these cash memos basically it helps you in claiming your rights, or it helps you in claiming cases. Suppose I have purchased suppose if that is costing me 14,000 rupees, and I don't take a bill from the purchaser, sorry, from the seller. And if suppose if there's any issue with the product, then what you will do? You will not, if you don't have a cash memo or something with you, how you will claim that you have purchased that thing? And what happens on the other way, if you talk about it, also helps in generating the tax also in the country. If you talk about your moral responsibilities. Now, why these cash memos are important and all the things is there. There's another thing. What happens generally when you approach the courts, they ask for the proof to show that whether you have purchased that thing and when you have purchased that thing. You cannot orally refer in the court that I have purchased that product 2 years back or 1 year back or something, right? For that, you should have a cash memo. So as you're aware about it, there is a limitation clause, right? That till what time you can file the consumer complaint before the consumer courts. So that limitation will not be able to calculate if you're not sure when you have purchased this thing product, right? That's thing. Filing a complaint for the dismissal of genuine grievances, same way. You should always file your complaints, no matter even if for a small loss. I have filed a consumer complaint through Delhi Legal Service Authority for 2,000 rupees also. But then it does that the person from whom you are selling, purchasing those products should not cheat you, and he should not do the same thing with the other person. To make sure that such type of things not happen and to punish that person, you have this policy of this thing. I'm sorry. Okay. So now, what is this complaint basically? Okay, a complaint, as you all know about it. So a complaint is basically a written allegations which is filed by the applicant or the complainant or through his counsel or whatever you call that. They file those complaints, and basically it's a legal document which consists of your facts, it consists of your legal reasons, it consists of your proof, it consists of your all the other necessary things which are required and to prove your case. Now, in what all cases the complaints can be filed? Now, there's one more thing which is added. I'm talking about the previous act, so I'm talking about at that time what used to be there. Defects in goods, deficiency service, you're charging excessive price, your hazardous goods, unfair trade practices, right? So these things are generally filed in the complaint. Now, who all can file a complaint? Right? If you guys will refer to the Consumer Protection Act Section 2, so it talks about the eligibility for filing a consumer complaint. So first is the beneficiary of the goods and services. Then you have a legal representative, as I have already said just now, of a diseased consumer. Then you have a legal heirs of the diseased consumer. Then you have a husband of the consumer. Suppose the wife is not in a condition to travel, or she is not in a position to fight or do it. So what she will do, she will file an authority letter authorizing her husband to be the person who will be having the who will be handling the case and all that things. A relative of a consumer, again, depends upon the circumstances and the permission of the court and the authority letter, whatever they are supporting and filing it in this. Then the insurance companies, okay, they can also file the case against some other company or something for the claims also of the deceased person or whatever the person is there. As we do it in the motor vehicles cases, right? The insurance company is at the end, once the accident has occurred and the charge sheet has filed and the notice has been served to the person. So if the person has a valid insurance policy, so what will happen? The insurance policy will, you will file a representation before the court that you have an insurance policy and your insurance policy will handle the case. So the case gets transferred in the name of the insurance policy after that. Now, what's the time framework which I was just discussing about? So it's 2 years from the date of which the cause of action has taken place. Okay. Now, there's one more thing about the same thing which I should know. Like I think you guys should know about it. It's about how, suppose if this 2 years time period is over, so then what happened after that? When this 2 years time period is over, so generally we file an application for condonation of delay before the consumer forums. This application of condonation of delay talks about the delays or the defects or sorry, the delay and why the delay has caused to us in filing the complaint. Suppose the courts find your reason genuine. So what they do, they allow your complaint. Okay. Or maybe sometimes in what happened in some forums and all that, they impose a minimum penalty or something on you. And on the basis of that penalty, they allow your complaint. Now, what are the circumstances when the complaint cannot be filed? Right? So there are various circumstances when the complaint cannot be filed. Suppose if you first thing which I just want to tell you about the limitation if it's not permitted. First, if there is no registered association, so that registered association cannot file a complaint or a case on behalf of other people. What is this non-registered and registered association? Is basically this unregistered association. Generally, what happens? So, in the case of home buyers or the cases against the builders, there's an association. There's a group of people who join together. They form an association and then they file one single case on the name of that particular association. So what used to happen with that? There were numerous cases which used to get filed. So this section 12, which talks about the joint complaints and all that of the Consumer Protection Act. So that thing was creating a lot of issue in that. So there were recent NCDRC judgment, the Supreme Court judgment, which gave a clarification on this concept. They said that those associations which are not registered, they cannot file the cases on behalf of the complainant. Only those who are registered can file a complaint. Okay. Now this thing about the complaint by an individual on behalf of general public is not permitted. Now suppose there is something which has happened against me. So I cannot have a person X who will file this case on behalf of me till the time I don't permit him. Or he cannot do it by saying that the Dushan's rights have been violated and there's a deficiency services by this company. So I want to file a case. You cannot do that. For that, you go in other form and all that thing, but not here. It's not possible here in this. Now, about this thing, the complaint on behalf of public, which consider unidentifiable consumers. So if suppose the consumer is not defined, identified, or if it's not clear, so in that case also the complaint cannot be filed. Okay. Now about this thing, the dismissal of issues. What happened generally? I'll explain this thing to you guys. What happened? A lot of time we also face these things. Lot of cases are filed in which they have misrepresented the court or the council, and they have used those type of things which are misleading. Okay, or they are based on the frivolous grounds or frivolous what do you call the proof documents and all that. So those things can also not be entertained by the court. Second of all, if you have issue, suppose the complainant, if they can also say that suppose if the complainant has filed such type of cases and all that things, and there is any loss or misrepresentation or any what do you call that frivolous means have been used by the consumer in filing the case. So sometimes they are also liable to pay the opposite party also for the same thing, because they have also affected the reputation or they have caused some damage to the opposite party by filing such type of false cases, right? So those things can be there. Now some reliefs which are there under this to the consumers is that removal of defects from the goods. What all things you can add in your prayer is that you can ask the opposite party to remove the defects in the goods. Suppose I purchase a speaker and that speaker is defective and it's not able to, it has buffer sound. So what happened? We can also ask the opposite party through court to change that product or remove this defect. Now about the change of the product is the replacement of the goods, which I have already heard. Sometimes what happens when the product is not in a condition to be replaced or refunded, or if there's any that type of deficiency which was caused by knowing it or which was caused purposely. So in that case also you can ask for the refund of the entire price which you have paid. Now the compensation for the loss and injury suffered, I have already mentioned. If you have suffered any mental agony, or sometimes we claim for the litigation expenses also, because that is a loss for us. If suppose the goods were not defective, so we will never come to the court for the same, right? So in that ways you can ask for the compensation. Now in other ways, the removal of deficiency in services. Suppose I buy an insurance policy and the insurance policy has failed to pay me the amount. So then what happens in that case? You ask the opposite party through the court to remove those deficiency in services. Suppose if they have failed to pay you the amount, or if they have not provided you that services, or if they have dismissed your claim, or if they said that you're not eligible for any claim anymore from us, so those things can also be removed through this thing. Now, unfair trade practice, as I was already talking about, this unfair trade practice, this thing is always there. It was there in the previous 1986. It is there in the 2019 Act also. So this unfair trade practice is basically a very common thing, which is generally happens with all of us, and maybe all of us have suffered from the same thing. So the first thing about the unfair trade practice is basically, which you should know, it's about the misrepresentation, okay, or the false representation which is made by the other party while providing you that service or selling you that product, okay. And if you have a false offer of bargain price, suppose when we go to some retail shops and something, you find this free one, buy one get one free offers, right? Suppose you buy those things, right, and it has a low price in that, or suppose the price when you buy any product from Flipkart or Amazon, and that shows that the price of this thing will be 700 rupees, and the original price was 1400 rupees. So this 700 rupees is basically a your bargain price or the offer which they are giving you. And when there's any false representation or the false offer on these things, on the price and all, then also that falls under the unfair trade practice. Now if there's any scheme or a gift has been offered in a product and you don't receive those gifts or of products, suppose what happens in these when you buy in the festival time, when you buy any product or something, so what happens, these people, they tell you, okay, now you buy this product, we will give you a gift voucher which you can use it within a 6 months time, and you can do a purchase of 7,000 rupees every month from us. So those types of offers, if you go and do the shopping again within a 1 month time, and that offer is not valid, and you still have the proof for the same and all that, so in that also you can always approve the consumer court, and that will falls under the definition of unfair trade practice. Now, non-compliance of prescribed standards. Suppose what happened in the food items and all that, there's a prescribed standard which they have to follow. Okay, and if they don't follow that also, then also that will fall under the definition of unfair trade practice. Now, this is a new concept. This is a restrictive trade practice thing. It is there in the previous act also, but then what it talks about is about the the misrepresentation or the manipulation of price or delivery condition. Okay, and it also, when you impose an unjustified cost on the consumer or restrict them from buying something because of some reasons of your, or you tell them, okay, now there's a you cannot do this you cannot buy this product now because of something. It's not about the shortage of the material, but it's because of some malpractice which they have placed, or they have increased the price of that product suddenly without even informing you. Suppose if it was showing you some other price, and when you go to purchase it, it shows you some other price, so that restricts you from buying those things. So then what happened, that's on the side of the consumer. Now what about the side of the businessman also in that, about this thing? Suppose if there's any trade practice, okay, you are supplying any goods or something, and that gets affected because of some other person. So in that also you can always say that your trade practice has been restrictive by this particular authority. For example, I can give you a better example about this thing, is that suppose when we deliver a goods from the some courier services or something, so you do it for earning or something or whatever it is, but then you are paying that service, right? And suddenly they stop delivering your products, or they put it restriction on that trade, but whatever you're doing it is in a legal way. So in that also you can always approach the court saying that they have restricted your trade practice, which is the violation of your right. So that's why this court has a jurisdiction, and we want to file a case before this consumer forum or court, whatever you call it. Now, as I said, you have three types of councils: central, state, and district. You have three types of consumer courts also now. One is your district forum, second is your state commission, and third is your national commission. As you all aware about the district courts and all that things, so was it not clear? It's not clear to everyone.
No, it's clear, sir.
It's clear. Okay.
It's clear,
So
sir.
basically, okay. So basically, there are three tiers of, as we all know, we have a district courts and all the things, and we have a high court and we have a supreme court. So what happens with these things? The district courts are basically limited to that particular district. In Delhi, we have 7 district courts, right? In short. So those district courts are limited to their particular district, north, south, east, west, southwest, like that. Same way, you have a consumer forums which are belonging to a particular district. Okay. So what happens in Delhi? You have district forums of particular place. Suppose when I'm the panel council for Southwest District Forum and the West District Forum. Okay. So what happened? These district forums, they govern and they handle the cases with respect to that particular district only. Earlier, what used to happen in 1986 time, when this act came into picture, what happened? The district forums used to handle the cases on the basis of the residence or the registered office of the respondent or the opposite party. But now the concept has changed. I'll tell you what's a new concept which has came into a picture now. Then it comes a state commission, just like we have a high court. The state commission is basically one state commission will be there in each state. Districts can be any number of districts and any number of district forums can be there, but the state commission will be one and it will be only in one particular state. Suppose you have UP, so you will have one state commission. You have Delhi, you will have one state commission. Now, about the National Commission, they are just like a Supreme Court, higher body in the consumer courts. Just above higher National Commission, we have Supreme Court, but National Commission is just like there's only one commission which is there in India, only one commission which governs all these district forums and the state commissions, which is situated. The National Commission is situated in Delhi now. So now I'll talk about this composition, jurisdiction, and appeal and this thing. I think this much is clear to everyone till now, right? So now this district forums, basically they are governed by the state government. Okay. And who will be the judges and what will be the composition? There will be one chairperson and there will be 2 members, out of which one member should always be a woman. It's compulsory in all the district forums, state commissions and all. Then what's the term for this? They are appointed for a period of 5 years or up to the age of 65, whichever is earlier. And now who is this chairperson? He of the in this composition is basically the head of the district judge. Okay, this basically, or he is qualified to become a district judge. Then he can be a chairperson of the district forum. Jurisdiction clause, it has been changed now. Earlier it was 20 lakhs for the district forum, to up to 1 crore for the state commission, and above 1 crore for the national commission. Okay. So now from district forums, you go to state commission. What was the time limit for the appeal? It was 30 days. And how you approach, suppose an order has been passed in your favor. You go against that order. So what you have to do? You have to deposit 25,000 rupees or the 50% of penalty amount, whichever is there. Whichever is less, you will deposit that much amount in that state commission, then only your case will be heard. Now, about the state commission, again, governed by the state government, understood for everyone, same year, tenure 5 years, but now the age has been shifted to 67 years from 65. And who will be the head? He will be the person who is qualified to be a judge of high court or working as a high court judge for 5 years. Now, this thing has recently happened in Delhi also. There was a judge, she was working as a high court judge and she has resigned and she has become a head or the president of state commission. Okay, so limits I have already told you. Now, the same, if from state commission, you go to national commission, 30 days time in appeal, you deposit here 35,000 instead of 25,000 and the 50% is same. Now you have a national commission, which is one in all over India. governed by the central government. Obviously, it's the name itself suggests that. Now, there's one thing which has changed here is about the members. Earlier, it was 2 members minimum. Now, it's 4 minimum members, and out of that, one should be woman. Even the president can be a woman also. Okay. Now the term again 5 years or up to 70 years of age. It has increased from 67 to 70 in this case. And this person should be the person who is sitting or a retired judge of a Supreme Court, High Court. As we have R.K. Agrawal currently in National Commission as a chairperson or the president of National Commission. And he was retired from Supreme Court and he has joined National Commission. Now from National Commission, the appeal goes to Supreme Court within 30 days. Deposit 50,000 of the amount, or 50,000 as the court fees, or 50% of the amount, whichever is less. Now, this role of consumer organizations are there. These types of organizations are spread all over India, as I have already told you about these organizations. These are few names of these organizations. What these organizations do, they basically provide or help the person in increasing their awareness, or they also help them in fighting the cases or filing the cases in that way. Now, these are their functionings. I don't think so that is much required, but then they talks about the journals, brochure. They conduct a lot of awareness programs. They give these products for the testing and all that, and on the basis of those test reports and all that, they file the cases on behalf of the consumers. They educate these consumers. They educate the women regarding their products which they were using it in their daily purposes and all that things. And they also motivate people about these quality marks and all the things in general. Now, I think till now 1986 is clear to everyone. Now this new thing which has came into a picture in 2019. I know it took a lot of time for the government to implement this thing or to bring into a picture this thing. But then this Consumer Protection Act, it came in 2019. It was finally signed and approved by the president on say 9th August 2019. And till that, from that time, August 2019 till now, this act was there. It was published in the official gazette and all the things. It was available in the barracks and everything. But then this act never came into a picture, or it never came into the role among us. So what happened recently on 20th July 2020, few sections of this act came into a picture. But before we go into those sections and all that things, let's see what's the difference between the 1986 Act and the 2019 Act. So now they have a regulatory authority, which was not there in the previous Act, but now you have CCPA, that is Central Consumer Protection Authority, which has been formed. Now what happened? This jurisdiction clause has came into a picture about the consumer courts. What used to happen earlier, as I already discussed about it, the consumers can only file the case where the respondent's registered office or the respondent is residing. Okay. Only in the cases of the electronic transactions, the place of jurisdiction will depend upon the place where the bank is situated or where the transaction has taken place. Suppose if I am depositing an amount or transferring an amount to someone, and that I'm doing it through IMPS. So in that case, what will happen? Only the IMPS transactions have happened while I was sitting at my house or something. So I have to show the court about the same, that this transaction has taken place while I was sitting at my place. So therefore, the cause of action arises on my place. Suppose I stay in Dwarka. So the cause of action will fall within the court of Dwarka Consumer Forum. Okay. So this thing was decided now. But what happened with this new act? This new act brought a new concept and a big relief to the consumers. What it has said now, wherever the consumer is staying, or wherever the consumer will reside, or wherever the consumer is working, from that place he can file a consumer case. He don't have to look for the opposite party's address or the registered office and all that. He can file it on his address also. The other thing which was they were discussing about is about the product liability. This product liability thing was earlier not there. Suppose you buy a product and you have some issues with that product and all that. So earlier you were not able to approach the consumer forum, but you'll use other legal remedies before approaching the civil courts and all the thing. But the product liability thing also has been introduced now, so you can also seek a compensation against that product or the services. Now about the jurisdiction part. Earlier, what used to happen, the district forums have a jurisdiction of rupees 20 lakhs. Now that has been increased to 1 crore. State commission was up to 1 crore. Now that has increased to 10 crore. National commission was above 1 crore. Now that has increased to above 10 crore. Now, the other thing which has been introduced recently in this thing is that e-commerce provision was not defined in the 1986 Act, but that e-commerce provision is now introduced in the new Act. And now whatever the transactions or the products which you are buying it through the e-commerce ways, they can also be punished now. Again, earlier there was no dispute resolving mechanism earlier. Okay, there was no legal provisions to solve the disputes before the outside the court, or once you file a complaint, there is no procedure to solve the dispute as such. You can only do it by yourself, and then you have to withdraw the case at the end. But now this mediation concept has been introduced in the consumer forums and courts and all that. And what happened? The courts have to refer the matter for the mediation now, and the mediation cell. And if there's any proper settlement or something between the parties, so they have to file that mediation report to the court, or the settlement deed to the court, and the court will pass an order on the basis of that. Now, there are other few things which you should know, and I should also inform you guys about it, is about the e-filing of complaint. Earlier, what used to happen, this e-filing system was not there in India. Okay, these consumer complaints were never used to be e-filed. What used to happen, we have to go to the court, take all the papers with us, file it there. And we have to look for the court's holidays, court's timing, everything. But now this e-filing system has been introduced. So what happens now, as you know, the COVID-19 has changed a lot of situations and all that things between us. So this e-filing is going to help us a lot. We can file the cases online. We can even have the hearings also online, as the NCDRC is doing nowadays. They are hearing the matters online. So that thing has been introduced. Now, this CCPA, when it was established, so you are not aware that what is the CCPA and how it is headed and all that. So this CCPA is generally headed by a Director General, okay, who will conduct an inquiry and investigate into the consumer laws violations. He will have a power to take suo motu of the action. They can recall the products. They can order for the reimbursement of the prices of goods and services. They can also cancel the license also of the person who has sold those goods. They can also file class action suit against those people also. Okay, if it affects more than one person individual, so then the class action suit can be filed. Now, this product liability and the penal clause. What happened earlier, whenever there was a product which used to come into the TVs and all that, we used to get inspired by it. Suppose, as you know, these kids, when they see any chocolates ad or any toys and all that, they always want those things, right? But they're not aware if that product is good or not, or even they don't think, or they don't have to think about it, but it's the responsibility of the parents or the guardians to think about that thing. So when you buy such type of products or something, and suppose if there's any issue with that product, or you are inspired with the products ad and all that things, but so then what happens, how you will sue those people, how, where you will approach and all the thing. So those things have been added now in this new act. Okay, and as I said about the e-commerce thing, so it's the same thing which you talked about. Then you have a product manufacturer and the product service providers also, the sellers, the person who are selling the products, or who are there for claiming any compensation and all that thing. So all those things have been introduced in this thing. Now what happens, this product seller is defined under this act. It's given under the section 2 definition also now. So it includes a person who's involved in placing the product for a commercial purpose, and as such would include e-commerce platform as well. So when this type of things have happened, or if there is any deficiency in service on this product seller or something, so in that case also you can always uh, you know penalize that person for the same. And now how you do that? By this way. Suppose earlier what used to happen, there was a difference that that e-commerce, they are just a platform, okay, and they are not the person who are selling the products and all the thing, or they are just helping the products publicity and all that. But those things cannot be taken as an excuse now. Okay, it increase the liability risk for manufacturer, but it also increase the liability on these providers also. They also have to make sure that whatever the product they are showing or they are providing on the e-commerce platform and all that, the product should be good. It should not be based on the bad quality or anything, whatever the things which I have just discussed. So they cannot go with the excuse that it's just a platform, we provide the services to them, but we are not the one who are selling the products, or this product is not our responsibility. So that thing is there. Now about this thing is that there are certain exceptions also which is there. Suppose you buy a product which you modify or alter, or which you misused it, not used it the proper with the proper standards and all that. So those things you cannot claim, and you cannot held the product server liable for the same. Okay, now the penalties, basically these are the penalties. This concept is not yet been introduced recently on 20th July, but this thing is there in the act as such. They impose a penalty. That penalty can be up to 1 million also. It can be on the manufacturer also, or the endorser also. Endorser is basically the person who sell or who has the electronic platform with them. For false and misleading advertisement, the CCP may also sentence them to imprisonment up to 2 years. Okay, for the same, and they can also ask for a fine also, which goes to up to 5 million. Okay, now this the thing is basically a very good thing which has been introduced now. And now what happened with this thing is that this thing has been stopped. It prohibited the endorser of a misleading advertisement from endorsing. Suppose, for example, don't take it personally for yourself. Suppose if an actor or any famous actor of yours is doing any ad or something about some product, and then that the advertisement which they're giving, nothing happened in that. Suppose those medicines and all that show that in 15 days this person has grown his hair or lost his weight for 10 kgs or something. So suppose you use those things and you find them misleading and all that. So in that, not only the product company will be held liable, even the endorser or the person who is doing such advertisement will be held liable now for that. Okay, so it's a fixed liabilities and all that upon the acting as brand ambassador. As I have already told you about the person who is acting as a brand ambassador, they can also be held liable for the negligence and for the defects caused in the products or all that. Now, I was again talking about this act. So this thing has came into a picture on 15th of July 2020. And on 15th of July 2020, the government came up with the notification in the website. And they have brought this certain acts into some sections of this particular 2019 act into a picture. And they said these things will be implemented from 20th July 2020. Okay. So section 2, 3 to 9, I think you all are aware, so I don't have to go into this thing again. So these things were introduced. Now, all these things which are there under this concept, or the things which are covered under these sections, will be implemented from yesterday onwards. Okay. Now, again, in the conclusion, I think you guys should know about few things which are there. Everyone has their own rights. Okay. You have, being a consumer, we all are consumer first of all, and being a consumer, you have your own rights as you have your fundamental rights. As the fundamental rights are same for all the citizens of India, the consumer rights are also same for everyone. Just that the purpose of that thing should not be deviated, and you should always call yourself as a consumer in that. Now, the other thing is that education of consumer rights works. That's why we organize these webinars, these programs and all the things. And even my firm is continuously working on helping these consumers free of cost. Those who are poor and needy, or who falls within the definition of the legal aid, or who are deprived, or who are having an income less than 1 lakh rupees annual income, or the women's, or the children's, or the old people, or the retired people who have income of less than 2 lakhs. So we are helping such type of people through our firms also recently, along with various DLSAs. We all are working hand to hand for the same thing. So, and that's why we conduct a lot of education programs. When I have my own, every Tuesday in Dwarka Consumer Forum, I have my own, what do you call that, a hearing type of system, or front bench type of work every Tuesday, in which we hear these people, we solve their disputes free of cost. We give them a lot of advices on all the things every Tuesday. Now it has been stopped because of the coronavirus and all the things. And again, once these virus will go, the things will be normal again. So we have started doing that. Now the technology, we have a technology now. Everyone is having a smartphone and all that things. We are aware about everything. So we should always get ourselves up to date. That's why we post these consumer updates and all that in our web pages and all that, so that the people should be aware that what all things have been used, what all new acts have been introduced in the society and the country, and what things they can benefit, being a member of a society and all that thing. So those things you have to be up to date. Then again, consumer protection programs, as I have already told you, these councils, they are doing it, the society, the organizations which are there. But it's a responsibility of us also to educate the people about the, the consumer rights, and provide them protection also, again the protection, all that things. And again, same thing as I said, consumer is a king. So let's make Consumer Protection Act successful, and treat this consumer as a king, so that no one's rights get violated, and everyone gets the good products and services for their own use. That's all for now. Any doubts, any questions?
So may I ask?
Yes.
Suppose a plant costing rupees 1 crore, 1.5
Hmm.
crore, and since it was a Diwali Mela and I got it for 99,000 at discount rate. So
Hmm.
is it MRP or the discount rate which is considered at the time when I want to approach the court for the redressal?
It will be your discounted price which is printed over there, because when you are purchasing something and when you're getting a bill of that particular product, so for what will be the cost which will be printed on that? It will be the
It's
amount which you have paid,
yes,
right? It will always be the discounted amount which has been you have paid in that thing. So whenever you claim in the court, so what you will do, you will put that receipt in the court
yes.
to show the product that you have purchased it. So the product on which you have purchased it, that price will be considered in that.
Dushyant,
Yes,
my
sir.
question is that in case there is already one case which is pending before National
Hmm.
Commission,
Hmm.
and this very transfer had taken place from the State Commission based on the value of the transaction.
Hmm.
And they said that since the value of the property is more than 1 crore of rupees, though the
Hmm.
claim therein was less than 1 crore,
Hmm.
we filed one application before State Commission.
Hmm.
Now, because of this changes in the city law and the Consumer Protection Act of
Hmm.
2019, can
Hmm.
I come back again in that state commission?
Sir, for that you have to file an application in the
Right.
National Commission
Hmm.
and seeks a permission from the court, saying that you should be given a liberty to withdraw this court or approach the particular commission from the time where the case has been stopped. Suppose you have already filed your rejoinder in the National Commission.
Right.
Okay, so you can seek a liberty from the National Commission to direct the State Commission to consider your case from the time after the rejoinder has been filed.
Okay. Okay.
So your time will be saved. So,
Okay.
and what I understood from this act recently, I think this act is not applicable to the cases which are pending, but it is applicable to those cases which will be filed now.
Okay.
this is what the National Commission is doing it, and I heard that the National Commission is planning to pass an order also on the same issue recently. They are planning to bring an order on the bringing a clarification on this thing, because then what will happen? These district forums and all that, they will get overburdened, and it will be difficult to decide that where you have to file, which district forum you will go. Right. So to save those times and all that things, they are planning to bring a clarification on the same thing.
Okay, so we will have to wait for that clarification to come up.
Yes, yes, yes. And let your matter get listed before the court. If the court will themselves direct you to withdraw the case, so you can seek this liberty from the court for the same.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. As per the amendment, how celebrities can be held. I just told you about the brand ambassadors and all that, Nimesh. These celebrities who give these advertisements and all the things, they are generally acting like a brand ambassador of that particular product. Suppose you have this Gujarat thing and all the thing. So you have Amitabh Bachchan as a brand ambassador, right? You have the Salman Khan as a brand ambassador for a lot of products and all that, right? So for that, you always have this thing. You can hold them liable and you can file a case against them also for the misrepresentation. I think it's clear to you. Right, Nimesh?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Rishabh, what was the procedure to seek redressal before 1986? There were no courts before the 1986. You had only the civil remedies for all the same things. There were no consumer courts or the consumer acts or anything related to the consumer before 1986. So we used to approach the civil courts. Okay, what is standardization of products? So basically, Vivek, standardization of products is basically a thing, a person. If you are selling a product, it should have some proper standards, right? Which should be good for your life, or for your health and for the environment and everything. And suppose if those things are not there, so in that case, you can file a case against the person for the same. It's clear, Vivek?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other doubts? Any clarification you guys want in this? No?
Hello.
So Priya ma'am?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for your enlightening session today.
Yes, someone has a doubt.
Sir, it's me, Hulas.
Yes, Hulas.
सर सीसीपीए क्यों इंट्रोड्यूस किया गया सर, जबकि स्टेट लेवल, नेशनल लेवल और डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल पे कमीशन है, तो सर सीसीपीए इंट्रोड्यूस करने का सर क्या यहाँ पे ऑब्जेक्टिव है अलग से?
हुलास, बेसिकली जो तुम्हारा सीसीपीए है वो पिक्चर में आया सो दैट जो तुम्हारे अथॉरिटीज हैं, जैसे तुम्हारे पास अभी इफ यू हैव एनी डिस्प्यूट और समथिंग, राइट, एज आई टोल्ड यू व्हाट इज सीसीपीए, राइट, यू आर अवेयर अबाउट इट. सो सपोज नाउ अगर आपके पास कोई डिस्प्यूट है किसी भी चीज के रिलेशन में, या अगर कोई ऐसी चीज है जिससे कुछ जो रेगुलेट कर सके, या अगर आपको कोई ऐसा चाहिए कि जैसे हमें, जैसे वी हैव बैंक ओम्बुड्समैन एंड ऑल दैट, राइट, बैंकिंग ओम्बुड्समैन, we have insurance ombudsman, we have RTIs and all the things, and you have in RTIs also you have appeals and all that. Even in the RERA also you have other bodies, appellate authorities and all these things. So the CCPA was basically introduced so that they can handle the cases by themselves only. And suppose if the person don't want to waste their time in the court, or if they don't want to file a case against them, so they will have a authority to introduce or to approach that authority, so that whatever the dispute they have, or if they want any inquiry of there's any violation, or if they want any investigation on any product or something, so the courts cannot do such type of things, right? They cannot go for an investigation, they cannot go for an inquiry and all the things. So that's why they got this thing, regulatory authorities. These regulatory authorities helps the people in doing all these things. Now the other thing is also there, that they can also file a class action suit also. This type of class action suit thing was not there earlier in the courts, right? The courts cannot file such type of class action suits and all that things earlier. So that's why authority has been constituted, so that they can help the people in a larger perspective. Okay. And otherwise, there was one more thing, Hulas, which I guess I have just missed. Like I have explained in the PPT, but I missed to explain you this about the licensing also. About suppose if you want to cancel someone's license, right, and the person is selling you a wrong product or a bad product or any the bad product, so then how you will get his license cancelled? The courts don't have any power for the same, right? As such, they can only do it once they will pass an order or something, or they can put a limited stay or something on the product for some time. How they will do it? So in that, you have this thing authority where you can approach and get the license also cancelled. Okay, now we have a question. If we buy the flat from Supertech after paying the money, we came to know that a builder has built the flat without the permission. Then the flat gets sealed later. So where do we appeal? See, in this case, Tushar, you have two things. If, as I told you guys recently also about the same thing, suppose if the person is aware or the builder is aware or if such type of thing has happened before you have purchased these things, so in that case what happens, you approach the consumer courts, or even now the NCLT concept has been stopped and there's a lot of discrepancies and issues with respect to section 7 of the insolvency and bankruptcy code. So what you can do is that you can approach consumer courts also for the same, for the deficiency of service, because they have failed to give you the possession, right? Your possession has not been given to you. So in that ways, you will approach these consumer courts saying that the possession has not been given to you. You have paid the amount. Now the builder is liable to refund you the entire amount. So that ways you approach these consumer forums. Even if this NCLT concept is there, so you can approach under section 7 of the IBC to the National Company Law Tribunal also. Even you can approach RERA also for not fulfilling the guidelines. So you have three options, whichever you want to choose, do it.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Any other doubts? No? Supriya ma'am, we'll wind up with this.
Yeah, sir. I think everyone got it, and the way you explained it is commendable. So we are really
Thank
grateful.
you,
Thank
Supriya.
you. Thank you so much for your enlightening session today.
Thank you, everyone.